Welcome back, kids. In the last video lecture, we have seen the different players in deregulated power markets, and we have already seen that the role of these players differs in different markets. Now, in this video lecture, we will see the different types of restructuring models that have been adopted across the globe for restructuring their electric sectors. Now, in this video lecture, we will see in particularly about the first restructuring model, which we call it as a PoolCo model. On the completion of this lecture, I hope that you will be able to understand the operation of PoolCo model. You will be able to describe the operation of independent system operator in PoolCo model, and I hope that you will be able to explain the concept of contracts for differences, which is a peculiar thing which is basically seen exclusively in PoolCo model. Okay, so now the contents, I will start with the different types of restructuring models. I will give just a brief introduction regarding that, and next we will see in detail about the PoolCo model. Who are the players in PoolCo model, their responsibilities, and in particular the role of independent system operator and the concept called as contracts for differences. Now, before going in detail about the concept of the restructuring models, now as we have already seen that when there are so many players in generation side and when there are so many players in the discom side, there is always a question about who maintains the transmission system. Because let us suppose, I'll come again with the same example. Let us suppose if there is a generator 1 and there is a generator 2. 1 minute. So we have seen that let us suppose if there are two generators, G1 and G2, who are at position X. Let us suppose there are two discoms at location Y, and there is only one transmission line connecting the locations X and Y. Now, if let us suppose D1 wants power from G1 and G2, and D2 also wants power from G1 and G2, and G1 wants to deliver power for both discoms, and G2 also wants to deliver for both discoms, and now the transmission line is only one. So, who should control this transmission grid? Who should give access to the transmission lines? So that is a big question. So who will maintain the control of transmission systems? And what type of transactions are allowed? Should the discoms be allowed to purchase directly from the gencos? Or should there be a power market where everybody comes in and tries to sell, and everybody comes here and tries to buy? So, or they should be allowed to purchase directly. So who controls the transmission grid, and what types of transactions are allowed? And finally, what type of competition should the system allow? So these type of concerns are always there. So based upon that, the countries across the globe have gone through different types of restructuring, and the predominant models which have been accepted globally are, the first one is a PoolCo model, and the second one is bilateral contracts model. So I'll often refer to this as PC model and BC model. PoolCo model, bilateral contracts model, and the last one is a combination of these two models where both the bilateral contracts do exist and also there exists a pool. So that type of model is called as a hybrid model. And in this video lecture, I'll be focusing only on the PC model. So let's coming to the PoolCo model. In PoolCo model, they will be independently owned wholesale power pools. So they will be just like power pool, where these are basically independently owned, and everybody has to come to this power pool either to sell or to buy electricity. So the gencos DISCO 1, DISCO 2, and large customers, they'll directly come to this pool. These are basically, the pools are basically independently owned. They won't belong to any GENCO or DISCO, any customer basically. They'll be completely independent, and everybody comes to this pool, they will submit the bids. So everybody buys and sells through these power pools. And these are served by interconnected transmission systems basically. So it is just like a centralized clearing markets for trading of electricity, just like any other commodity. So it encourages competition basically. And whoever wants to sell the power should come to the PoolCo, and this is called as a PoolCo basically. This power pool is basically called as PoolCo. So if you carefully see, it is a centralized clearing market for trading of electricity, and power is to be purchased or sold from PoolCo. And there must be no independent trading between DISCO and GENCOs, or customers and GENCOs. So power trading must be done only through pool. If such type of markets do exist, then those markets are called as PoolCo model markets. Okay, where everyone trades electricity only through a centralized markets without any bilateral contracts. Now, who are the players now in this pool market? The first one is, as usual, the GENCOs, as you have seen in the PoolCo model. So some people, they will come to sell the electricity, right? Those are nothing but GENCOs. As already we have seen in the last lectures also, that a GENCO can be independent entity or public owned or private owned or a group of entities. So those are often referred to as GENCOs basically. Normally we call them as independent power producers. Okay, so normally independent power producers will be available. They will be ready to sell their power. And apart from this, there will be DISCOs, what we call them as, and sometimes large customers also, they will directly enter the market in order to buy electricity, provided they do have permission to do so. They can also enter the pool and they can purchase the electricity. So GENCOs will be there, DISCOs will be there, sometimes customers will be entering, and the other players are TRANSCOs. As already said, they will generate, they will utilize, they will distribute, and somebody must be there to transmit power from here to here, and that job will be done by TRANSCO. And this entire thing will be looked after by PoolCo, which is the market itself. So these are the players in the PoolCo model: a GENCO, a TRANSCO, DISCO, sometimes customers, and the pool itself. Now, what are the responsibilities of this PoolCo now? So everybody is coming to the PoolCo. So everybody is selling and buying the power. So you must have some particular rules. You must, as a player, when you are considering yourself as a player, the pool itself, it must hold some responsibilities, right? When everybody is trusting you for trading of electricity, so you should hold some responsibilities. So what are the responsibilities of a PoolCo? The first and foremost thing is, it establishes the bidding procedures. So everybody comes for selling or buying, so they will submit their bids. And once the bids are finalized, once the bids are selected, shortlisted, so you should intimate the buyers and sellers that your bids are shortlisted, and then you should plan for scheduling and dispatching the electric power from the generation to distribution. So scheduling and dispatching is the responsibility of PoolCo. So receiving bids, opening them, shortlisting them, and then finally scheduling and dispatching the generation. And apart from that, you should provide additional services also. So PoolCo basically, it provides ancillary services. As an electrical engineer, I think that you know about the ancillary services. They'll be just like frequency management or reactive power management or congestion management. So in case of exigencies, we should they should offer some additional services, and those services are called as ancillary services. So PoolCo provides ancillary services also. And once the generation has been, the electric power has been transferred from Genco to DISCOM. So PoolCo is responsible for collecting the money and finalizing the settlements, financial settlements also. PoolCo only will do that job. So administering the settlements process, the financial, the job is done by PoolCo itself. And finally, when you are allowing generators to deliver electricity, and you are going with financial services and providing ancillary services, and you should also provide the transmission services also. So you should give access to the transmission lines which are maintained by Transco, right? So this non-discriminatory access is to be provided by the PoolCo, and there will be separate operator for this one, and that operator, which we will see in the next class, is called as independent system operator. So the role of ISO is very crucial in PoolCo, because everything you are taking the bids from Gencos and buyers and sellers. So you are finalizing the bids, you are allowing them to trade electricity, and finally you should give access, and on a non-discriminatory basis. Okay, so those are the responsibilities of PoolCo. So the key points now, since you should maintain non-discrimination, so since you should not hold any partiality, so PoolCos are always not allowed to own any generation or transmission components. They are not at all allowed to hold any generation or transmission components. And the major thing is, they should hold the control of transmission grid, because they should encourage an efficient operation of transmission lines by providing non-discriminatory access to all the users in the power system. And as already been said, that all the players, they will submit the bids, and not all the bids are finalized basically. See, sometimes the generation may be very high, sometimes the demand may be very high, which means that if the generation is very high, only few generators will be taken into consideration. The rest of the generators, they will be left out. But every generator basically has given a bid that he will provide the electric power at this price. Not all the generators will be shortlisted for providing the power. Similarly, when the generation is very low and the demand is very high, then all the demand cannot be met. Right? So in that case, how the bids are being shortlisted? So there will be a cutoff thing, what we call it as a market clearing price. So among all the selected bids, whichever is the highest price, then that one is called as an MCP. Let us suppose there are 3 players. Player 1, Genco 1 is offering power at 2 rupees per megawatt, 2 rupees per unit. Generator 2, 2.5. Generator 3, 3 rupees. Generator 4 is there and he is providing at 4 rupees. Each one is providing 100 megawatts. So which one will you choose basically? The first option will be, we will always go for this cheapest electricity. So G1 is selected, G2 is selected. Let us suppose my demand is only 300 megawatts. Up to how much I will be selected? I will be selecting only up to G3. Right? G4 will be eliminated. So only up to G3 will be shortlisted. Now this price which is being offered, 3 rupees, this is called as a MCP. Market clearing price. It is the price of the highest selected bid. And even though G1 and G2, they are ready to offer at lower prices, they will be paid at 3 rupees only. It is their luck that they have been selected. And they will be paid, even though they are ready to offer at 2 rupees, but they will be paid at 3 rupees only. See, this is the advantage which they are getting. Up to this cutoff, whatever the cutoff is there, this is called as MCP. And everyone will be paid at MCP itself. And these player, he is being left out now. Okay. So sellers sell instead of their generation cost. Their generation cost might be 2 rupees only. But they are now getting 3 rupees. So buyers also, they will buy the power at this MCP. So final price is greater than MCP because apart from this MCP, you will be having certain taxes, overhead costs will be there, transmission costs will be there. So final price will be always a little higher than the MCP. Next. So what is the process involved in this PoolCo? The first and foremost thing is the players. They will submit the bids, both the buyers and sellers. And once the bids are finalized, MCP will be determined. And once MCP is determined, the sellers and buyers, they will trade the electricity at this particular MCP. And final MCP is always greater than the MCP. And whoever has, let us suppose, as already seen in the last slide, basically, if you offer electricity at higher price, nobody will be able to purchase that one if there is no demand. Let us suppose if you want electricity at a very lower price, nobody will provide you electricity at a very lower price if the generation is too low. So always the high bidding sellers and the low bidding buyers, they are in a danger position. They may not get the thing which they wanted. Okay. So the advantages of this PoolCo model is that whoever generate at a very low price, whoever offers electricity at a very low price, then automatically their bid will be selected. And if the demand is high, then they will be paid high price also. Okay, so highly advantageous for low cost generators. And successful bidders for selling may expand their operation. And based upon these things, you can plan accordingly based upon the consumption and patterns. Basically, you can expand your business. So PoolCo model is advantageous for the people who actually can generate power at a very low cost and those who are ready to purchase power even at higher prices. Now, what is the role of independent system operator in PoolCo? Now, everything is being looked after by the PoolCo itself. It receives bids, it finalizes the MCP, it allows the generation from GenCos to, it delivers the power from GenCos to DISCOMs or the customers, and the transfer is also at the behest of the PoolCo. So now this PoolCo, it asks the independent system operator, because it is the job of PoolCo to provide non-discriminatory access to all the players, because there are so many players. All the players, the pool itself has finalized. So now it is the responsibility of PoolCo itself to provide non-discriminatory access to the transmission lines for all the players who have been shortlisted. And this role is done by independent system operator. As we have seen in our topic number 2, the independent system operator, basically, he is responsible for providing this access. Okay, he doesn't own any transmission or generation resources. He basically, see, he is independent of transmission and generation resources. And once GenCos and DISCOMs have submitted their bids and they have finalized, and MCP has been finalized and they have been shortlisted, ISO, based upon the submitted bids, it has transmission lines, so it forecasts how much power can be transmitted on each transmission line, and they have their own algorithms. They will do the algorithms, they will finalize which power is to be transmitted on which transmission line and at what time. Okay, so balancing generation with load and maintaining reliability, those are the jobs of ISO. Okay, so that's it for this class. Thank you, and we will continue this PoolCo